Welcome to another day on the Mind Valley podcast. Today you're in for a treat. I'm with the queen of manifestation, Regan Hillyer. Regan went from having $8 in her bank account to now owning multi-million-dollar businesses, as well as coaching multi-million-dollar business owners. And today she had a 2-hour session for a group of over 400 people where we all went into a state of trance, met our higher self, our future self, and became conscious about our abundance blocks. Regan, thank you so much for being with us. Well, firstly, I want to share with the audience that I just finished a 2-hour session with Regan, and it's taking me a minute to come back to my physical body. We had a 2-hour journey with no psychedelics. We had a psychedelic experience with no psychedelics where Regan, she was playing an instrument, and that instrument had a certain vibrational frequency. And the next thing I knew, I had left my body. I met my future self, my abundant self. Actually, I'd never met her before. I'd never met my abundant self before. I met her, became one with her. I understood the blocks between where I am now and where my future self is. And I felt like you were decoding our subconscious minds and the blocks we have created around abundance. Tell us what you did to us during the session.
Thank you so much. Well, it's so good to be here and fresh out of the session. So beautiful also to witness you just being in it and the recalibration of these frequencies. So what happened is that I used my method, the energetic architecture method, to go in and helped basically shift and recalibrate people back to their natural state, because our natural state is pure abundance. And if we're not manifesting that abundance in our life and in our reality, then there's pieces within us that are blocking that and stopping that and slowing us down, basically. So I went in with everyone and basically worked through the quantum field of information to simply recalibrate the energetic structures so that they can come back into harmony, so that they can come back into coherence, so that you can be an energetic match for what you're looking to call in. So this is not work where it's about becoming something you're not or even trying to learn something. This is actually about surrendering back into who we are, which is our most abundant iteration of ourselves.
Oh, so you are taking us back to our natural state.
Correct.
Does that mean that if any of us is not living in abundance, we're not living in our natural state?
Fully.
And why do we do that to ourselves?
We do that because of society, of programming, of our parents, of our families, of what we were told growing up, like all these layers, and we stack. And then we take all that information and we delete it, we distort it, and we generalize it. And then from there, we craft what we believe is our reality. But the reality is an illusion, and it's something that you can play with. It's malleable. It can look however you desire. You know, when you say like you can really manifest your dream life in any way that you desire, you can. But if you have all this programming in there basically telling you can't, and it's got to look a certain way, then that's what blocks that. And that's what blocks people being in their full natural state of abundance, because at the end of the day, our soul is pure abundance. We're pure light. The soul is untarnished. The soul isn't, you know, with scarcity and suffering patterns and like telling itself it's not enough. It's just the soul, right?
And in our natural state, do we match the frequency of everything that we want, all of our desires?
Yeah, and it's easy to do that. And then you can fine tune what you want to match to. And that's where, because you might not want to manifest everything in the entire world, but maybe there are specific things. And your soul speaks to you through desire. You know, there's many people that might say even the word desire in the spiritual world is like, no, you shouldn't have it, like get rid of it, right? It's bad and wrong and evil. But I'm like, you know what? I believe the soul is speaking to you through desire. It's the soul's way of saying, hey, you desire this, you want it, because it's actually already happened. It's in your future. And that's you feeling it. Your desire to manifest it is you saying, I feel that's already happened. Now let me just simply close that gap. And so then you can basically fine tune, okay, I want to become an energetic match for that manifestation. I want to manifest this in any area of my life. Let me match myself internally so that I create the reflection, because the illusion of reality is always reflecting back to us what is going on within us internally.
So does that mean that our desires are basically our higher self calling us back home?
Yeah.
Or showing us the way, saying, okay, this is the desire. I want you to come after this desire, because by going after this desire, you're getting closer to me, to your natural
absolutely
state.
And when it's a true soul desire, like I'm not talking about like, oh my God, there's a chocolate cake in front of me and I have a desire to eat the whole thing right now. Okay, that's probably coming from a wound. That's probably coming from a space where there's something in you saying, I need sugar. So we're not talking about that desire, but the pure desire where like you think about something or you have a vision and you just have bliss bumps everywhere and you just have this feeling in your gut and you're like, I know that's in my life and that's my reality and that's something big, and maybe I don't know how it's going to happen, but like I want that. I pray for that. I have a vision for that. Like when it's that, that's a soul desire.
How can you tell if a desire is coming from the soul or the ego?
Practice. Practice. And the more that you firstly recognize the difference between these, you'll be able to try different things on and figure out, okay, yeah, this is a true soul desire, or actually that was totally just my ego going wild and that wasn't even in alignment. So a good way to do this is look back at your past. We've all created things in our life where we thought we wanted it, then we get it and we're like, actually, I didn't even want that, right? And you don't want to judge yourself for that, but tag it and get curious about it and say, okay, interesting. Like, how did I come about that desire? And you can start recognizing, all right, okay, that was from the mind or from the limiting constructs of the ego. And then there are things also that manifest where they're just soul aligned and you're like, this is such a huge part of my life and this is something that happened. Well, recognize, when did you receive that vision? What state were you in? How did you know that to be true at the time? And the more that you do this, the better you get at having discernment to really recognize this. Even when it comes down to then very small things in your life, like someone might be like, you know what, I want to go with you on a trip to Bali next week. And you're like, whoa, okay, that wasn't in my schedule, but something in you is like, yes, get on the plane, go to Bali, right?
Yes.
And we've had this feeling where it's just like, yes. And then you might even think, wow, the mind says Bali would be amazing right now, but there's a gut feeling like, like, no, you're not meant to go to Bali right now, right? And so you're able to recognize, okay, is this truly in alignment or not? And people can practice this with tiny things like, hey, are you coming to the social event tonight? What's the gut response? Yeah, it feels amazing, I want to go. Or like, no, I'm feeling a no. What happens? You go to that social event and you have the worst night ever. You end up just going, why didn't I listen to myself, right? So we've got to be always in the school of training ourselves to listen and practicing this as a spiritual practice without attachment to always being right or wrong, you know?
So our job is to discern whether a desire is coming from the ego or the inner voice is coming from the ego or it's coming from the soul.
Yeah.
Now it goes back to some spiritual leaders saying that, let go of all desires, which is how you open your whole session with. You said, okay, let go of all desires. When you let go of the ego, all desires dissolve, and namaste. And you even said that. And that, it's funny because that was on my mind when I walked into your session. I am struggling to understand, as human beings, do we have free will or is everything predestined?
My thoughts is that it's a little bit of a combination of both. Because yes, we have free will and we're constantly making choices, and there are different, I guess, timelines or pathways or options always available to us. So it's a combination of both, because at every moment we're making a choice, we're making a decision, be it conscious or unconscious, and those choices and how we act from there are shaping our reality. And when you know that with every choice that you make, there is actually multiple layers, like infinite layers of pathways that are then created from that choice and from that option, which means really you're playing in the field of infinite potentiality and infinite possibilities. So there's a lot of people that are like, oh, you know, maybe I can't manifest that because, oh, you know, the divine timing isn't right, or I'm not destined for that, or that's, you know, our family has never had money, or whatever story is running. But at any moment you can go, okay, that's that. And what if I made this new choice to simply choose that I'm going to listen to that soul desire and I'm going to manifest it? I don't know how, I don't know what it's going to look like, but the minute you make that choice, that's when you're playing in the realm of infinite potentiality and possibility. And then everything is an option. So I feel it's this beautiful dance.
So we do have the choice to play in the realm of infinite possibilities.
Yes. And if you're doing that, then anything is possible. But if you don't make that choice and you're like, oh, there's karma, there's divine timing, there's this, there's that, there's all these things, you're stuck.
Well, I see, I live in Los Angeles, and two very successful businesses that a lot of people have created are the business for psychics and astrologers. And I've been watching a lot of people being misled by psychics and astrologers, because basically they say, okay, based on your karma or based on the energies of the cosmos, this is what's going to happen for you. And the moment that seed is planted, it's very difficult to take that out of somebody's mind. And by default, they're going to manifest whatever it is that the psychic or the astrologer said. And what is your take on that?
Well, I think that's a very real situation, and I think that's happening. And again, it comes down to most of the people that then, I guess, manifest that thing on default that psychic tells them. They're not choosing that they're a creator of their reality, and they're not choosing to play in the realm of infinite possibilities. Now, with my work, I don't go super deep in astrology and numerology, but I might have a session with someone here and there. And I definitely have people in my life that work with those modalities that I trust, and they're awesome. Now, if they tell me something, for example, if they say, Regan, in July, finances are going to be really hard. Money is difficult. This is not the time to spend any money. Everything's like doom and gloom with finances, right? I'm going to take that and be like, okay, maybe the cosmos and all that energy has the energy that way. I get to then work extra hard to actually create an energy field that is so much more abundant and resonant to that I don't even notice that financial blip.
I see.
Right? So you see how I'm like, okay, that's useful information actually. I'm not sitting there being like, oh no, it's July the 1st. My money's going to blow up now. Like, this is terrible. I'm going to lose everything. I'm not sitting there. I'm like, okay, this is the month where like might be a little more challenging. So I need to be extra. I'm going to do even more of my energetic work, even more of these activations. I'm going to focus more on money when maybe I wasn't in this month, so that I can create such a strong field of potentiality around money that maybe it's even an amazing month, let alone it won't be a dip.
I love that, because like you're basically viewing everything on the earth plane as a tool to serve you, the energy of the moon, the energy of the sun, the energy of all the cosmos and everything around us. And you're saying, if there's a month where the energy of the cosmos are not in my favor, I'm going to work extra hard to make up for that. And that's very empowering. In my personal journey in spirituality, I found that spirituality can be very disempowering.
Yeah.
Because if you separate yourself from the creator and say that there is a creator up there who might want something for me that is different than what I want for myself, you're separating yourself from the creator. And that's different than oneness. And this is where a lot of psychics, gurus, and spiritual leaders unfortunately can take advantage of people. Because by disempowering someone, you basically give yourself an authority to become their power and create a dynamic of codependency. So this is something that at your session, I felt like you help people feel empowered, because you ask all of us to become very clear on what our higher self, who our higher self is. What is that clarity? How can we get clear about that?
Yeah, and look, this is so important because so many people are popping all these pedestals everywhere, and it's creating a lot of damage. I don't know if you remember, but in the activation we just did at some point, I said, you are the healer, the shaman, the guru, the alchemist that you've been looking for. Anyone you've been searching for like that, that's great. We can have coaches and guides and teachers and gurus, and they're you and you're them. There's no separation. So when you come into that place, you're really claiming back your power. You're taking away any of these pedestals that you've been giving your power away to, and you're coming into, again, your natural state and your true essence of who you are. And that's where the clarity comes from. People often get stuck like, oh, I don't have clarity, or I don't know what I want to manifest next, or I draw a blank on this. And often it is because they're giving their power away. So what do? Okay, well, let me have a healing session, then maybe I'll work it out. Or let me go and see the astrologer and they'll tell me what's destined for me in 1 year's time, right? But if we take these pedestals away and we're in this deep power of our soul as a sovereign manifester, from there, things become very clear because you start receiving the information and you start building your own sort of discernment around like, yes, left or right, yes or no. And you start practicing, but functioning from that place, you're sovereign.
Is there a particular exercise people can do to get a clear vision of their higher self?
Yeah, well, in this context, firstly, you could literally just look at where are you giving your power away? Like what's blocking that access point and that clarity? And look, it doesn't have to be healers and shamans. It could be that you're still giving your power away to your mother. Could be that you're giving your power away to your children. There's your best friend, your lover. There's so many different ways that we do this unconsciously. So you can recognize that, and then you can choose simply that you are now taking back everything that's yours, and you can visualize all the information, all the energy, all the emotions, everything that you've given to someone else. You're so powerful. You're so beautiful. You're so strong. You're so that. Thank you. They're a divine mirror, and you imagine and intentionalize and visualize all that information coming back to you. What you can also do is anyone else's information that is in your field, send it back. You also don't need that, right?
Wow.
So request any energy that is actually not mine, that might have been even imprinted upon me from someone telling me something, or it has to be a certain way. I request now that this information returns to sender. I like to say via source. So it can just like go through the source, consciousness, higher self clearing, and then return it to the sender. It's theirs. You don't need it.
Wow, that was mind-blowing, because a lot of us, we go through one coach after another, coaches, psychics, astrologers, because we think we need their information and their knowledge, and it's only based because of their knowledge that we are where we are at.
Right.
And you're saying we don't even want the knowledge that is not ours.
Look, I love support, help, guidance. All of this is great, but as long as it's coming from a place of wholeness and it's coming from this sovereign place. If someone is coaching me and they tell me something, and maybe it's a little left field, I'm not going to be like, yes, you're right, or no, you're wrong, because you're a coach. I would say, okay, let me feel that. Let me feel that. Is that true for me? Is that in the highest for me? Let me tap into that. Okay, yeah, actually, I think you're right. I've never seen that before. Thank you so much. And I can humbly, but see how I'm consciously taking the information from a place of humbly receiving it after a check of like, yeah, this is good for me. It's just like someone handing you food and being like, eat this now. You can be like, what is it? Like, is it poison? Is it organic? Is it like, what's in this? No, just eat it, because I'm your coach. You should eat it, right? Let me feel this. Let me ask some questions. Let me hold the food here. How does it? You know what? I'm actually not hungry right now. Thank you. Right? And you can do this from a very intentional place. So we want guides. We want coaches. We want healers. We want support people. We want people, and also, guides in other realms and dimensions. Amazing. But like, where is the information coming from? And are you checking it first as a sovereign creator?
When you were in the room, you handled a room full of like 500 people, and you raised the collective energy of the room. We were all in a trance state. And I don't have enough scientific knowledge to know which brain wave you took us to or what happened. All I know is that we all left our bodies. And I thought to myself, there's no way Regan can do the interview afterwards, because of all the energy she's giving out to all of us. It's gonna like really suck it out of her. Like it's gonna make her like dry. And here you are, like full of energy. You're sitting here. I'm the one who's falling apart, and you're like, yay, let's do the interview. Do you give that energy from the overflow? Do you have help from different realms?
Yes, I have help from different realms, and yes, it's from an overflow place rather. And I like to think of it as, I have my energetic field, and when there's a group, I connect with all the guidance across the room, right? So whenever I open up the portal and open the field for these activations, I request that my guides scan the area and connect me with the highest, most high vibrational frequency, useful guides there. Useful, right? We don't want them just because they're high frequency, like useful, help us, right? So then when I have this connection point, it's almost like the information comes through me and then out through the transmission, through my heart, through the voice, through the energy, through all of that. So it's not even so much like I'm giving. Like, yeah, sure, I'm giving my time, my presence, my gifts, but it's not like I'm giving and now I'm empty. I'm actually charged up from this. You can probably tell.
I can. Oh my God. Yeah. Your eyes are glowing. You're full of energy.
I'm full because it's a fulfilling experience when you do it this way. And there's a lot of people even guiding, yoga and meditation. They're like, I'm so drained. And I used to get like this. Like when I started out in the beginning, even though what I was guiding was very simple, I would crash, I would burn, I would get physically sick. I would just be like, I can't, I would hit all these energetic limits because I was giving from this place, not from a fully embodied place of actually like, hey, my energy is my energy. They don't need any of my energy. They do need a clear channel to gather the useful energy and bring that through the system, through the frequency of the transmission, which then results in the sound frequencies that you hear, the guided activations, these pieces. But it's not like, oh my God, I just gave you my arm and now I don't have an arm anymore,
You give from the overflow. What is the 80-20 rule?
The 80-20 rule is something very practical that you can apply in your life. So the way I love to play with this is that if you're looking to manifest anything in any area, it's 80% the internal game, right? So basically, like this process we just did for 2 hours, that's the 80%, right? It's the energy work, it's recalibrating the mind, it's updating the layers of information, and then it's 20% what you do on the outside. Right? So you still have to show up in your life, right? Some people are expecting a magic pill and they're like, I did all your activations, but they have to go and do something, right? We're then listening. We're bringing a different version of ourselves to the altar of life. We're communing with the universe in a different way. And we've got to be brave to be like, okay, this new version of me does this a little differently. This new version of me like gets on the plane and goes meets that person. This new version of me is like a little scared, but I'm gonna go and write that book anyway, or whatever it is. You must then actually step, and that's the 20. But you've got to make sure the 20 is in alignment with the 80%. It's like the 80% sets you up. And then the 20% becomes very almost obvious and easy and flowy. Even if there's a challenge, you're like, I know how to navigate this because you have this 80% base of the inner recalibration.
Wow. So, and I understood that the 80% work is our job is to match the exact frequency of what we want on the outside.
Yeah.
So we match that frequency so it can basically reflect back to us and we can manifest it. And if we... like law of physics, if we go on a frequency that a little higher or that a little lower, it's still not quite that very thing that we want to manifest. How do you make sure you manifest the exact vibration of the exact thing that you want?
Totally. So this is a great question. People ask me this all the time because they're like, I don't know what it feels like because I haven't manifested yet. So how do I tap into it, right? And so the answer to this is what I call energetic conditioning. Okay. And so you must condition yourself to become, you're right, the energetic match to then create the reflection of your own energy reflected on the outside in your life in the physical manifestation. So some people think they might do an activation once and then they're like, oh, it didn't show up. I'm like, that's like going to the gym once and being like, I trained my bicep. Why didn't my whole body change? You've got to keep going and you've got to practice it. So a lot of people in my Mind Valley course use this tool called the manifestation alarms. And so you set a nice alarm that's good for your nervous system, like something not, stressful. And when that goes off, you want to set them ideally every hour throughout the day. And when it goes off, you're going to stop and just like 20 seconds to 2 minutes, close your eyes and just feel what it feels like to have the manifestation now. That's all you're going to do, right? And you're going to be like, okay, I'm so happy. I'm so grateful. It's already manifested, the love of my life, the money I desire, the body of my dreams, whatever it is. And you just feel what it feels like that it's done. Not that it's coming, because then it will always put itself in the future, but that it's here now, right? And when you start doing this, some people might not feel anything, and that's also okay. They're like, oh, it didn't work. I'm like, do it again, right? And I promise you, if you keep going, there will be a point where you start really feeling it. And when you feel how good it feels, you're going to do what we did today, and you're going to tell your system, okay, turn this up, make this vibrational feeling stronger, double it, triple it, vibrate it through my system, right? And then there will be a point where the alarm will go off, and you'll have this interesting like merging of reality where it's like, oh, I feel like it's here, but wait, it's not here. It hasn't manifested, but I feel like it's here. Okay, let me do the alarm anyway. And then the alarm goes off and the feeling will be stronger, but it's still not here. And it's almost like, you know, when you wake up from a dream and you're like, that happened, but it didn't. It was a dream. You were dreaming it, but you feel like it happened. You have this like reality blur, which is a really good sign that you're on the right track. Because then at some point the alarm will go off and you'll be like, oh, my manifestation's actually here, in which case you reset the alarm and the manifestation and you level up and you do it again, right?
So to match the exact frequency of what we desire, we need to feel the exact feeling of having that desire already here right now.
Right now. Right now. And you see so many people are feeling, this is how good it would feel. And that's just copy pasting it into your future. That's why it never shows up, because it's always a maybe feeling that you might access later. But if you feel it now, and you're just like, I'm feeling it, I'm breathing it, I'm vibrating with it, this is so good, it's done. A lot of my clients walk around saying like, I know that it's done, because like that's the vibe. It's like it's here now. You're bringing it from the future, and literally like a computer, you would click, drag, and drop, and you'd bring the information from there, drag it, and drop it into the now. So you can feel it and experience it now. It's like every good athlete runs the race in their mind and their feeling body before they win that race. Every athlete is like, I felt it, I feel what it's like to win the race. I watched videos of other people winning the race. Like they get into like it's done, and then it does happen.
It does happen. How do you create a space to connect with your highest self and to download the vision that you want?
Yeah. So, I have many activations guiding people on how to do this, and I'm the first person to tell everyone, like, you don't need me, okay? You can literally sit there and connect with your own intention to the highest iteration of yourself, right? We did it today. It's 20 seconds, like 5 seconds, super fast, right? Now, there's a lot of people talking about the higher self. Let's just go for the highest self, firstly, right?
Oh, wow.
Because tomorrow you're a higher self, technically, right? You've evolved a little bit. But what if you are to connect with the highest iteration that you have access to, right? So that's a nice little upgrade for a lot of people that do this work. It's like, oh, let me connect with the highest iteration of me.
I've never even heard of that before.
Yeah, everyone's running around saying higher self, and I'm like, no, don't do it. You're wasting your time. Connect with your highest self. Like, why not? The highest before you become pure source or consciousness or God. Like, we want that version.
Ooh, that almost feels scary. I don't even know why.
This can feel scary because it's a jump. You feel the difference between higher self. Okay,
versus
that's kind of comfy. That's like kind of around the corner versus highest self.
It's like the difference between making $1,000 versus like $10 million.
Yeah, exactly.
But then at the same time, you're like, okay, why not 10 million?
Why not?
Why not? Going for the highest self.
The highest self. So you can do this literally with your intention. You close your eyes. All right, I choose to connect with the highest iteration of me. Now, you can maybe see it, maybe feel it, maybe not. It doesn't matter. What we need to know is that simply through our intention, through the observer effect, when we observe something, we have access to it, and we're able to start to alter that information. So everything is information at the end of the day. And if we're working across time and space, we start remembering that our highest self might feel like it's really far out there in the future, but quantum physics says it doesn't matter. It's non-local. It doesn't matter if it's right next to you right now or a million gazillion years away. Quantum physics doesn't care. You have full access through the quantum field of information to the information, which is just vibrating particles, which is all we're made up of at the end of the day. So if you connect with the particles of your highest self, and you then request that that information comes and fuses into the now, quantum entanglement starts happening. And effectively, you start merging with that highest iteration of you. And when you're in this process, you can ask, almost like an interview, your highest self. You'd say, how do you walk? How does this version of me talk? How do they show up on a Monday morning? What is different? What do they say yes to? What do they say no to? What do they fuel their body with? What do they eat? How much water do they drink? Like, all the details really matter.
Do we design our higher self?
Here's the difference. If it was designed, it would come from your mind. It would be like, let me create a construct of my higher self. What you're doing is you're tapping into that information and you're allowing yourself to receive it. You're surrendering to your higher self. In this moment, nothing to create, everything to receive. And it's a subtle difference. But if you're aware of that and you're literally not like, okay, I need to create my higher self, but instead you're saying, okay, let me receive all the energy, all the information, all the magic of the highest essence of who I am. And you start, we did this today, right? And you start bringing that into your system, you start fusing and becoming one with that. And then you are literally a different iteration of that. And this is where the 20% comes. This is when you say, you know what? I'm going to choose to show up in my life in this 20% from this frequency, from this vibration. If someone's saying, you know, do you want to come to the event tonight? You can check. What does my highest self say? Yes or no?
So the difference between downloading your highest self versus creating your highest self is by creating your ego and your mind.
Yes.
They need to think of how, a step by step of creating my highest self, versus what you're saying is that our highest self already exists in the quantum field.
Correct.
And we just need to connect to that field of energy and receive the downloads of what our highest self really feels like.
Yes.
Now, when we were doing this exercise at your session, I felt something about what I thought it was my highest self that I didn't quite like, and I couldn't tell if it was my ego or my highest self.
What was it?
My highest self was pretty lonely.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. And it was fear-based. It was a fear-based, lack-based, and I'm like, okay, is that a way to discern whether it's my ego or my highest self? Does the highest self feel like, does it come from lack, or does it feel like fear?
Exactly.
Does it?
I think the highest self, I mean, really, if you're in the highest, most abundant expression of who you are, do you feel that version of you desires loneliness?
No.
No. So what we're doing is we're seeing that through a filter of a fear that, oh my God, if that version of me is that big and that bright and that shiny and that abundant and that amazing, like, no one's going to know how to connect with me because that's so big and that's so out there. So this filter of the fear comes up being like, oh God, it's lonely at the top, right? But if you see that as a filter, that's when you can just be like, oh, okay, thank you actually for bringing that fear up, and now that can dissolve and shift away. It's there to try and keep you safe.
And that's a filter of ego, I assume.
Yeah, it's from the ego. The ego creates it.
The ego wants to protect you, and the ego wants to create fear.
The ego is not like, oh yeah, go connect with your higher self. That's really safe. That's
so maybe we can say a way to discern whether a desire is coming from your highest self or the ego is that if it's coming from your highest self, it's blissful. But if it's come from your ego, it's anxious, lack-based, fear-based.
Yeah. And, let me say this. Sometimes when you do connect with your highest essence, this is not uncommon to also, like, for example, you had the loneliness coming up. This is not uncommon. Some people, for example, feel some anxiety. Mm-hmm. And again, that doesn't mean their highest self is an anxious person, right? Because again, the most abundant, powerful expression of them probably isn't sitting there super anxious, right? Mm-hmm. However, again, these filters come up, and this is just such a good opportunity to see the blocks. It's like, oh, that's one of the layers in the way of you just folding that into the now. And so if it's coming up, what a blessing. I can see it. This is amazing. Oh my goodness, I felt this fear of being lonely. How cool is that? Now I can change it. Because now it's going from the unconscious underneath the surface, and you're shining light on it, bringing it into your conscious awareness so it can change.
So basically, that's our way of becoming conscious about the roadblocks that exist between where we are now and our highest self.
Absolutely.
I love that. Can you explain to our audience what the difference is between a manufactured manifestation and a surrendered manifestation? How does that look like so people can identify when they're doing one instead of the other?
For sure. Yeah. So we've also been almost touching on this through this conversation because, most people are living their life in manufactured manifestation. And this is where you're basically trying to join all the dots up, and you're like, this manifestation is going to happen, but it's going to happen this way by me doing this specific thing with these people, and then it's going to happen da 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 da, and it's like controlling the process, right? Now, the problem with manufactured manifestation is that it works. I manifested a lot in my life from that place. And I was like, I'm going to get there regardless. I'm going to hustle. I'm going to push. I'm going to like drink 10 coffees and not sleep and go for it. And yeah, I got there. But like, at what cost, you know? All of a sudden you're burnt out. You're exhausted. You're wondering if you even want this life. Like, it's kind of crazy, you know, because it's such a program that can be so intense. And the big factor in it is the control. Now, the big challenge with it, even though it works, is that you will hit a cap. You know, and I see this even in very highly successful people. They're making a lot of money, or they're experiencing a lot of love in their life, but they're capped, and they're just like, it's not moving. And I say to them, I'm like, because the way you manifested up to here, it's great, but it's not the same way that's now going to get you to this quantum leap place where your life is totally different. And yes, it's more abundant, but it's from this place of divine synchronicity and ease, grace, and flow, and doing less and receiving more. Like, there's a different way. So that's where surrendered manifestation comes in. And so just like we were talking about with receiving the information from the higher self, surrendered manifestation is when you're still very clear, like, okay, this is the desire, this is the manifestation, this is what we're putting out there, it's going to happen, it is done, I'm doing my energetic conditioning, you're using all the tools, you're connecting with your higher self, but now you're surrendering to actually allowing the magic to unfold through you. And this is this dance as well around like, yes, we're an intentional creator. And there's also like a lot of divine synchronicities going on where if we were open and available to them, maybe we could see them and notice them. So this is this dance where as well, it's almost like your manifestation is coming through you, and these pieces lay up and you're still participating and showing up, but you're from this surrendered place. So manufactured manifestation in men and women is very much like a unhealthy masculine energy. It's like a push, penetration, like I'm going to get there regardless, right? Whereas surrendered manifestation is this interesting mix of grounded, healthy masculine of like, here's where we're going, and then a feminine opening and receiving. Okay, now I let it go, actually. I don't need to be attached to it and it's going to happen every day because I already know that it's done. Because it's a desire and it's out there in my future. Why would I question it? It's done. Now from here, there's a masculine healthy step of then, well, how do I now show up? And what does that look like? So it's this dance and this interplay of the masculine and the feminine, the pulsation in and out, right? Instead of just this place of like, I'm going to force myself through it.
So it sounds like in order to manifest, our only job is to feel the exact feeling and emotion of having what we desire right in front of us in this very moment, and let the how unfold by itself and not control the how.
Definitely. Yeah, you don't want to control the how. I say to so many of my clients, often trying, and I'll use the word trying because how much can we even control the how? Trying to control the how is one of the biggest blocks. It can be bigger than any fears. It can be bigger than self-sabotage patterns. And it's this attachment to, okay, I'm going to control how it's going to happen, that can really just slow down the process a lot.
And then what is something you would tell yourself to walk yourself off the ledge of wanting to control the details of what you want to manifest?
I would allow myself to notice, where am I trying to control in all those little details? You know, especially when I work with very high level people, often the control is not like some big thing they have to change in their life. Sometimes it's really small details. It's like, how did you speak to that assistant? Do you know, like, she's fine and she's going to do it? Like, why are you trying to control the process with it, you know? And it's these tiny little micro refinements of how you're showing up and how you're acting that you can start seeing, wow, okay, these are the places that I'm attempting to control the process. And from there, you can start changing the patterns. From there, you can notice, like, oh, I want to control that thing. And then you're like, okay. I'm going to let it flow.
So you help your clients become conscious of where they're trying to control the manifestation process, and you're like, get out of the way.
Get out of the way. And like, again, often it's like such small details. It's like a tiny little thing, and you'll notice it in yourself. Sometimes you don't even say anything, but you have a thought and you're like, okay, that was a really controlling thought. Like, yeah, right? And again, you don't judge it. You just notice it and you're like, okay, I often ask myself, what would abundance do? How would abundance be? What would abundance think right now? Would abundance be like, I need to control all these things? No, abundance is like, whatever, infinite abundance. Like,
what's the craziest thing any of your clients or yourself have manifested?
I think there's so many things. I mean, there's so much. There's people that have manifested crazy amounts of money. There's people that have manifested the love of their life. There's unexpected manifestations. Like, I get messages all the time. There's someone in the manifesting mastery program right now who wrote to me and they're like, I just manifested over $300,000 and I'm not even focusing on money in the course. Like, they're focusing on love or something else, you know? So I think for me, the things I love the most are those unexpected manifestations, the ones where they literally show up. And this is a cool thing that happens when you manifest in this way, because you get to a point where you're so tapped in and you're such an energetic match for what you're calling in, and the mind is so surrendered and you've done so much work on the blocks and the limitations that your field is so open and you're just living in this pulsation of surrendered manifestation. Then things happen where the manifestation shows up before you intend it. And it's pretty wild. And I've had this happen so many times in my life where literally like massive things show up and then I'm like, I never wrote that down. I didn't journal on that. I don't feel I did any process around that, but it's a result of how I'm living in this frequency. And I have a lot of clients that also start tapping into that and they're like, I just got given this in my life and I didn't even know I wanted that, but can you believe this?
And that's
like,
our natural state, because look, before a baby is born, the milk is already in the mother's breast.
Exactly.
So in our natural state, we are provided before we ask for it. We're provided for before we ask for it. So you're saying when we are in that surrender manifestation state, which is the state of being in high vibrational frequency, yet not controlling anything, we can attract other things that we don't even know that we needed or we wanted.
Exactly.
Wow, I get that. How do you determine the vibrational frequency of a millionaire? Or how do people know if they're in the frequency of money?
Yes. So everyone thinks that they'll manifest millions of dollars and then they'll become a millionaire. But it's actually completely the other way around. So you must first become the millionaire and then the money will show up. And this can feel like you're very crazy. You know, I felt for many years that if someone could look inside my internal reality and match that with what was going on in my life, they'd be like, this girl's lost it. Like, because I was living in my head and in my internal reality so far out in my vision versus where I was in my life. Now, I wasn't bypassing my life. I wasn't in denial of it. I wasn't living out of integrity. I was actually very present and very clear. You know, that moment where I had $8.70 in my bank account, I wasn't like, oh, whatever. I was like, okay, like my life is blowing up right now. I have a choice. But I could have at that moment been like, created all these stories saying, you know, I'm not good with money. Like my businesses are just going to fail. I should whatever. But instead I said to myself, I said, okay, you know what? So this is really the moment that I get to condition myself from the inside out. And I started going to work on importing that highest version of me that was a multimillionaire. I started writing things out. Like, I'm so happy and grateful that I manifest millions of dollars with ease. I'm so happy and grateful that the more money I make, the more money I make. I'm so happy and grateful that money flows into my life in unexpected ways. I'm so happy and grateful that I get paid for being me and just sharing my voice and doing what I love. Like, I would write all this out. And sitting on my friend's couch that I was sleeping on in Melbourne, Australia, like, you would have been like, this girl is insane, really, if you'd seen the gap. But from that moment on that couch, it was about 9 months later that I did manifest that first $1 million. I was 23 years old. And it was interesting when it happened and I crossed that milestone. Many people in my life were like, oh my God, how does that feel? Oh my God, you must be so happy. And I was happy and I was grateful, but it was the strangest thing. I felt it just felt normal because I'd done so much work feeling what it would feel like that when it happened, there wasn't a part of me that, you know, it was actually just like, okay, like, I'm super grateful and this feels normal. This feels natural. This
because
feels
you were already feeling that way.
Exactly.
You had already been feeling that way.
Because I conditioned myself multiple times per day to feel that way. So then when it showed up in my life, I was like, cool. Like, and I wasn't ungrateful. I was super grateful. And there wasn't this high of like, this is what it feels like. It was just like, okay.
Because you were living in that feeling, right? Living in that state.
Yeah.
What happens if we're constantly being reminded by our reality of what's not working, like our bills, our debts? How does that affect our manifestation?
Yeah. So again, we don't want to bypass our reality because actually in order to shift, we need to be very clear on where we're actually at. But how are we connecting to it energetically and what meaning are we giving it? So what most people do is they're in their life now, in their reality, and like you said, they see the bills or they see the thing that didn't work and they create meaning around that, and they effectively take that and they create a story that that's who they are and that's the results they get, and then they unconsciously copy paste that into their future, and then they're in their future and they're experiencing the same reality. Like all humans do this. We're never trained to do this the other way around. So we're literally taking our past accumulation, which accumulates into the now, copy pasting it into the future. So at any moment you can stop doing that game and take a step back and realize, okay, I'm at now and this is my reality. The bills are the bills. It is what it is. And at any moment, we're in this choice point, again, like we talked about in the activation, to completely change my reality. My future has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with my past. They're not connected. They're only connected if I copy my past and put it in my future. So if I want to recalibrate that, I can take a step back and then choose, you know what, from here, this is now going to be my different reality. Yeah, I'm going to pay that bill. I'm going to do that, but I'm not going to be doing it from a frequency of like, oh my God, I don't have enough money. I can't believe that. The scarcity programs are now copy pasting themselves all into my reality. I'm just going to pay the bill. It is what it is. I pay the bill. I recognize it, but I'm connected to the abundance. I'm connected to actually paying the bill and celebrating. I'm so happy and grateful that I make a money contribution to my power bill that I'm paying or whatever bill it is.
So you pay the bill from the place of I'm already a millionaire.
Exactly.
I pay the bill as if I'm a millionaire.
Exactly.
Right? Wow, I got it. And what happens if you do all the clearing for all the people and suddenly you realize that you have no friends or family around you?
Well, I'd love to say like, oh, that will never happen, but it happened to me. So I'm going to tell you that that might happen and that your fear of being alone is actually very real. And I know it would be great to be like, no, it's not true. But it is true because just as all layers of our being and life upgrades, so does our environment. And very rarely do we shift from one environment to the other just super fast overnight. There's a transition process which takes place. So you've probably heard, we are our environment. We are the sum of the 5 people we hang around the most. Financially, yes, but in all ways, energetically, physically, all of it. Joy, bliss, love, happiness, all of it. So when I started realizing this a very long time ago, I looked at my environment and I realized I didn't have one person in my life that was my cheerleader. I didn't have one person where I could go there and be like, this is my vision. This is how I want to change the world. This is the money I want to make. This is how I want to be. And I realized that if I told any of those people this, they would probably just laugh in my face or just think I was totally crazy. Like it just wasn't the environment for that at all. So one by one, layer by layer, I started removing myself. No, I'm not going to go to that event. Actually, I'm not available to return that phone call. I don't want to hang out with that person anymore. Some of these were very long-term friends. Some of these were family members. And I just layer by layer went through this clearing. And I was very intentionally cleaning my environment. And guess what? I got to a place where there was just Regan. There was literally no one else.
But was it just Regan or was it Regan or your higher self together?
It was Regan and her higher self hanging out.
So you were not alone.
I wasn't alone. But I felt pretty alone. And I remember sitting there and all my fears came up. They told you it was lonely at the top. You're not even at the top. You're not even close to the top. And it's really lonely. What's it going to be like if you actually create this life, And I remember sitting there and I realized, okay, what if it's not lonely, but what if this is actually an emptiness that I feel? And why have we been told that being empty is bad? Why are we always looking to fill it up with something, a space, a hole, a thing, a that? I need to consume everything. What if I could just be in the emptiness? And I allowed myself just to start sitting in it and feeling firstly like really uncomfortable with it. and then being more okay with it, and then actually starting to feel really good with it. And I realized that emptiness was a space for new energies to come into my environment. I realized that I couldn't bring in new money unless I first came into an emptiness of creating space to hold new money.
Wow.
I realized that I couldn't change my body unless I first created space to hold the new frequencies. So all of this started kind of playing into every area of my life, but with environment. And I was like, oh, actually, I'm good with this emptiness, and I want to be as empty for as long as possible until the right people come and they fit into that environment. And so I started holding that intention, and it wasn't until, honestly, that I was really, really okay with the emptiness. I started actually meeting some amazing people, and I started actually going out there, and you know what? I'm going to put myself in that environment. I'm going to turn up to that event. I'm going to go sit at that dinner table. I would do things like that. And in the beginning, you know, I had so many moments where I did that and I felt all my stuff come up. I would walk into rooms of highly successful people. And at this point, you know, I was 21 years old, no idea what I'm going to do with my life, in massive debt, like just every area of my life was kind of a shambles. But I had this big dream, you know, I had this prayer and this vision. And I remember I would walk into these rooms and I would just feel not enough. And I would walk in and just be like, well, these are the people I want to be around, but I don't fit in here. My life doesn't fit into the life of these people. And I remember this event that I walked into with all of these speakers that I ended up getting invited. I wasn't speaking, I was an attendee, but I got invited. And I was so scared when I walked into that room, and there were about 45 like super beautiful, successful, heart-centered, just Regan's idol people, right? And every part of me wanted to run. I wanted to leave that room. I felt so small, but I was like, okay, higher self, I'm going to stay. I'm going to, you know what? I'll be a reporter. I'm going to interview them. I'm going to figure out how they did it. That's my job for the night. And I walked around to every person and I was asking them like, look, I heard your talk, but like, tell me how you actually did it. Like, not your 5 steps on stage. Like, what was the actual thing? And I walked away from that night after all these interviews totally confused, because they'd all created their success in such a different way. I remember lying there at night and I was like, okay, what is similar about these people? And then I realized they all kind of felt the same to be around. They had a certain vibe. I could feel their hearts. I noticed that their shoulders were back and their eyes were bright, and they were in connection, and they just felt good. And I looked at myself, observing myself in that room. I was like, how was I? I was like, okay, my shoulders were slunched over. I kind of wanted to die. My eyes were down. My energy was in. And I was like, okay, what if I just started maybe being like them in my own way, being me, but being in that energy of just kind of owning that. And this was part of activating this millionaire and multimillionaire version of me way before it. I called it the $1 million version of Regan. And I would just like walk to the supermarket that way. And I would drive my car that way. Just me and my higher self, right? And be in that vibration. And the weirdest thing started happening when I started changing my vibration. People started coming to me. And I'd have people come to me, hey, like, I don't know what it is. I just want to connect with you. Hey, like, what's your name? What do you do? And I started one by one, like, magnetizing these people into my environment. It started happening without me even then, okay, let me go here and do this and kind of put in the work for it. So I went from basically terrible environment to clean up my environment to nothingness, to being uncomfortable with the nothingness, to making love with the nothingness and being like, all right, the emptiness is a great thing. From shifting my vibration and importing that new version of me, intentionally taking action to change my environment, and then from there becoming a version of me where, like you, people are just magnetized and they're like, hi, I just want to get to know you. Something about you, right? Because it's how you've cultivated your energy. So
when you felt inadequate to walk into certain rooms, you walked in as your highest self.
Yeah. I tried. I did my best.
You acted as your highest self.
In that moment,
you walked like your highest self.
Yes.
Until you embodied your highest self.
Correct.
That was beautiful.
And look, I think we're always doing that, rather. Like even now, I don't walk into a room as Regan now. I walk into a room and I'm like, okay, let's bring my highest essence. I don't go on stage today and do an activation from like, oh yeah, this is just how I woke up this morning. I'm like, I'm connected before we go. I told you, you know, I have a practice and everything that I tap into with the energy prior to going even in the space. And I codify my field to hold those frequencies. And I call in my highest essence because I want her to serve these people, not who I think I am now. So I think we're always in that that game of tapping into that next level.
Not
it's
all
infinite.
of us. A lot of us,
Well, if you're intentional about it.
My default mode for many, many years was to operate from my undesired self, from my sad self, from my unhappy self. And operating from a place of my highest self is a new thing to me.
Yes.
That you introduced to me.
Yeah.
My last question is, how is your manifesting techniques different from everyone else? And what is the energetic architecture method?
Yes. Well, I like to think that they're different because they work really well and they work for everyone. You know, if you really apply these tools, yes, I've wrapped them up in a bow, but these are universal principles at the end of the day that can be harnessed and worked on in this way. So the energetic architecture method is my method that you went through today, and it's a set of tools to help you shift and recalibrate your energetic field and bring it back into its natural state. And when you're in that natural state of abundance, you're able to fine tune your resonance for wherever you desire to match it in your life. So what's happening through the quantum field of information is we're effectively going in and we're updating all of the codes and pieces of geometries, all of the geometric patterns of the structure of our reality. And we're not changing them to become something they're not, but again, we're returning them back to the crystalline purity of what they actually are, which ultimately allows you to be more you in your life. It's not about trying to now be this version. It allows you to actually take a breath and be like, okay, I just get to be me. And yes, the most powerful, shiny, bright, amazing iteration of me, but just me. And there's something just so freeing and liberating about that. Like something drops off the shoulders where you're just like, oh, really? I get to do me? And I'd say people, I'm like, yeah, do you, boo. Do you, boo. In the best, highest possible frequency way. And I promise you, if you do that, the authenticity and the integrity of that, you will shift your life and you will manifest miracles in your life. Because for me, true integrity and authenticity is being brave enough to get into alignment with your highest essence. And so this method helps you do that and helps you embody that in your life.
Wow. That was so beautiful. To be honest with you, I'm still not quite back in my body because a part of me is with my highest self, and I feel like I want to stay there.
Yeah.
Maybe instead of bringing that version of me back down here, I want this version of me to go back up there. Because that was my real version. Yeah. I think what you did in your method as your audience, what I can share from my personal experience is that you helped us let go of all the sandbags that hold us down and they hold our vibration down. And you helped us identify and become conscious about the roadblocks between where we're at now and where our highest self is.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful for the work you're doing for the world and for helping people date their highest self.
Yes.
And I would love to name this episode Dating Your Highest Self.
I love it.
Thank you so much, Regan. What an honor. I'm very grateful. You transformed my life in those 2 hours in that room. And I'm going to carry that energy with me forever because something shifted in me and I met my highest self for the first time. And she was so delicious that I am never gonna let go of her.
Never let go of her. You're amazing, Megan. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yay!